Hello, Augies Worldwide. I'm Dave Kassler, amateur radio call sign KE0OG, here with another episode of Ask Dave. In this particular episode, we're going to take a look at one of the tools I use to make videos for the Ham Radio Answers channel. And the video editor that I use is made by a company called CyberLink. Now, oddly enough, even though PC Magazine lists CyberLink PowerDirector as the best consumer grade, or even for that matter, enthusiast grade editor, it's not much known in the United States because it's actually made in Taiwan. It's an outstanding editor. I first got it as version 8, which was a free version on an HP PC that I had purchased, and I was trying to find something that was more stable than the Roxio software I was using, and this seemed to fill the bill, so I purchased it, version 9, and now here we are up to version 18. They up the version every year in the fall, and so we're on version 18 right now, and I'm here to tell you it's a pretty spectacular product. Now, it does many, many things, as shown in this little short video. I'm just going to show the beginning of it because otherwise the music will pound your ears off, but just a little bit to give you an idea of what you can do in CyberLink PowerDirector. Well, that was wild, wasn't it? I think we can stop there with that. Now, as I mentioned, I am a CyberLink Most Valued Professional, which means they give me the software free every year, and in exchange, I tell people about it, which I'm doing right now. It is truly an outstanding video editor. It is designed at the consumer level, so it will start out simple for you. There are point-and-shoot modes in this editor, or you can get as fancy or as complicated as you want to, and the things that you need to do stay in the background. Now, as I mentioned, PC Magazine decided that this was their best consumer-grade editor in 2019 for several years running. This is better than any of the other what I'd call consumer grade editors. This is not Adobe Creative Element or Creative Series or anything like that. It's not Apple Final Cut Pro. It is a consumer or enthusiast grade editor, but I have yet to find something that I need to do that I can't do in this editor. So let's take a look at what PC Mag thinks of it. They think it's a great editor, and here is one of the factors that they use, how much time it actually takes to render a video, and you'll see that CyberLink PowerDirector takes the least amount of time of all of these others. It really is very fast. Now, what we're going to do for the next little bit is just take a look at how I use CyberLink PowerDirector. This will give you a view of some of the features, certainly the features that are important to me. Let's go. All right, I want to show you how I use CyberLink PowerDirector. I certainly don't use all the features. This is the main screen here. This area up here is called the library. It's where you have all the video clips, still photographs, things like that that are going to go into the video. You can preview any of them just by clicking on them, and they show up in the preview window over here. And these all are the things that I've determined that I will need for the video. Now, down here at the bottom is the timeline. And this is where we have different video clips. I want to just focus in a little bit on some of the parts and pieces. This up here in the corner, you see the file menu, which allows you to save projects and so on. Editing, has a few of the editing features on it, but normally you'd use them directly. There are some plugins. The most important one that I use right here is the Multicam Designer, where if I have a camera pointed at me and another camera pointed at something I'm doing on the desk, I can blend them here. Different views of the different rooms and so on. There is a save, go back, the ratio that the project is, I always do 16:9. You can do 1:1, by the way. This is something new. And it will edit this 360-degree video, which is pretty nice. This area up here is for setting user preferences, and you can sort of see what's going on right here. With general editing, file, display, so on. I mean, there's lots of stuff in there. Let's just cancel that. Now there are several what they call rooms up here. This is the media room. In the media room, you can also have color boards, background images. You can find background music, sound clips, and other projects and so on. By the way, you can nest projects if you want. Let's break that back to media contact. These are the different effects that you can put out. I only use 2 effects for the Ask Dave videos. One is a video tune-up feature by New Blue, and this other one is a chroma key by New Blue. This comes from New Blue Essentials 2, which I had from a much, much older version of PowerPoint. I just rolled over. But when I went to the new machine, I had to it was just easier to rebuy it because it didn't include it in the new ones. PowerDirector has its own native chroma key that they really like, and I prefer this one simply because I'm used to it. But there's a Boris FX, all kinds of effects, New Blue and ProDad down there, different effects. These are what they call particle effects, but these are the things that I use like for the tutorials when I'm want to circle something or point to it or something like that. There's all different kinds of shapes. There's a call out pack here where they have 160 different call outs that you can put in. By the way, these can be motion tracked, so if your object is moving in the screen that you want to put this little thing on, you can motion track it. This right here are what they call particle effects. I never use them. This is very important, text, and I have a bunch of custom text files that I've built over the years that I use quite a bit. Here's, for example, if I want to put text on the bottom with a URL, and here's different Ask Dave titles and so on, and you can see what they look like. You can click on them and then go over and see it over here in the preview window. And you've seen that one before because I use that one all the time. Up here also there's a million different effects for transitions. I would highly recommend you limit your transitions to a simple cut or a fade between 2. This one right here is for audio transitions where you want to overlap without a click in between. And this is a twist one that I use occasionally when I want something a little more emphatic than the fade. Newcomers to video often greatly overuse these effects. They really get in the way of your audience enjoyment unless you limit yourself to some reasonable ones. Like I said, there's a million down here. And you can design special effects in ProDad. Down here we have the audio. Right now the only audio that I'm using is audio 4. I'll show you that in a minute. You can record in real time and overlay track if you want, a voice overlay. You also can set up chapters like you would use if you were creating a DV disc or something like that. And you can even do subtitles, and they will come in at the right point. The ones I use mostly are the effects for green screen and video tune-up. Now, it's also important to note, let's just go ahead and select a piece of video right here, okay? When you select that, look at all the things that come up. To trim it, you can go into the effect. For example, the effect I have here is the tune-up, where I've added some contrast and so on, and then the green screen effect in here too gets set up, I think, very easily. Let's just close that for right now, go back down here. Designer, you can do picture-in-picture, mass designer, all kinds of stuff. Fix Enhance is very nice. It has a million things that you can do with video, from lighting adjustments, which are very handy. I mean, you can adjust basically anything about one of these. Get your white balance right, video stabilization, and so on. Color adjustment lets you adjust everything about a video. Its exposure, brightness, contrast, hue, saturation, vibrancy, etc. Lots and lots and lots of things you can do. There is an HDR effect. I mean, there's just all kinds of things that you can do in there. We've also got some tools. Power Tools gives you, you can change the video speed. You can crop and zoom and pan in videos. You can even reverse a video. And so on. The motion tracker actually is pretty good. I once needed to put a blur on something I had put into an Ask Dave video, and the blur was able to track it. There are all different kinds of things that you can do, including go to the audio editor. The keyframe section is designed to allow you to cause certain effects or certain things to happen at a certain time. I use those not at the top level, but I use them down inside the actual clips. Now, looking down here at the video clips, number one clip for me is the background, the Ask Dave background, which is a standard, let's get this past, let's get the cursor back over here. The background is what goes in the back here. Notice that these things go on in layers. So this is at the bottom. It's built first. Then they lay these titles on it. Then they lay the green screened video on top of it. Then they lay additional titles and so on. So what's at the bottom will appear on top of the heap. Now, it's possible to reverse this order if you prefer bottom to be bottom and top to be top. I'm used to doing it this way, so it's the way I do it. Now, notice here I have the audio that comes from the camera. Then I have separate audio. This audio right here comes from my recorder. I wear a microphone. I have both Sennheiser and Rode lavalier microphones with wireless capability on it, and that usually provides far better audio. It's very easy to sync up the audio. This top line right here allows you to really stretch out the timeline, and you can see how you can get right down into the audio and get those exactly matched up. I'm using the audio from down here, not up here. This goes with the video clip, and then it looks like I'm actually using the right audio. So lots of things that are in here. There are tracks that we can, if we were to go down to the bottom, they do include a special effects track, which will affect anything below it, a title track, a voiceover track, and a music track. But you're not limited to putting those things in there. I almost always put my, let me get this thing back to where we've got the whole thing. This right here, for example, is my track at the very end of the video, which has the music, and I just stick it on one of the audio tracks. Similarly, for titles, I'm often stacking titles, but there's all kinds of things that you can do, and you can preview it right in here. These are just some of the features that I use. There are a million different capabilities. Capture is if you want to use something on the computer like the webcam to capture. Edit is what I'm doing now. I spend almost all my time here. Produce has a very different interface. This is where you actually render all of this mess into a single video. And it's taking its time because I'm recording at the same time. But you've got the video here, and I render custom YouTube profile here, and that gives me full HD. This tells you everything you want to know, and you start rendering with this button down here. You've got a million different options up here, just as you can ingest all kinds of video, including professional formats. You can render to all kinds of video. It will do 3D. It does 4K. You can do it for a device if you're going to put it on something. You can also render it for what it thinks are the right settings for YouTube or whatever. I disagree with it as to what those right settings are. So I have my own settings that I put in here. Basically what the YouTube profile is, let's see if I can show it details. Okay, this is the YouTube profile that I use right here. It's MPEG-4 in MP4 format. I use a low bit rate, only 5,000, because I'm going to stream this on YouTube. It still looks beautiful, but because most of the screen is not moving, I can get away with that. Of course, it's full HD. I put in nice audio. It's just stereo. I don't try to go for 5.1. And the frame rate is 24 frames per second, or 23.98, actually. 24 frames per second. I shoot everything at 30 frames per second and then render at 24. I get the same bit rate here, which means each individual picture is a little better because it has more bits for it when you render at a slower rate. And don't worry about that rate, because if you go to the theater, the rate that you are seeing at the theater is 24 frames per second. So that's what I do for that. So lots of different things that you can do. There is the capability to create DVD and Blu-ray discs if you want to. People are not using them anymore. DVDs and Blu-ray discs are kind of fading off the market. Blu-ray never really caught on because at the same time you could start streaming your disc. So it's got a million different ways to set the thing up, do chapters, show different chapters, create chapters, so you can go directly to them. The stuff that's at the beginning you can play. I never use this. I have in the past, but I don't now. So I use pretty much the edit and produce screens, and find PowerDirector, this is version 18, to be an outstanding video editor. It will do anything I want it to do. I can eventually figure out a way to do it. And I've not run into something that it just won't flat do. You can see why here. This has been named by PC Magazine the best consumer grade, or for that matter, enthusiast grade video editor out there. Okay, if you go above this, you're going to be starting to get into Adobe Creative Suite or Apple Final Cut Pro, which are the kinds of things you make movies with. So anyway, this is why I like this particular video editor. I've been using it for about 10 years now. Well, now the question becomes, which version do you buy? There is a free download that is crippleware that you can use to kind of try and test it a little bit. you can download either this year's version and pay for it. You'll have to pay an upgrade fee in future years to upgrade it. Or, and I recommend this, get the subscription model. The subscription model costs a little bit more, but we're not talking thousands of dollars here. We're talking $129 a year for a subscription to this product. As a subscriber, it will automatically download and update the software with any changes. They send you all sorts of creative packs and all kinds of fun things that you can play with. And that's $129 a year, which is a fraction of what you would have to pay for Adobe. And it gives you not only CyberLink PowerDirector, but also Audio Director, Color Director, and what they call Photo Director. Photo Director is their answer to Adobe Photoshop. The Color Director is a very sophisticated color rendering tool, and Audio Director, as you can imagine, does all kinds of audio things. Now, as it turns out, I'll make an admission here. I use Audacity to edit the audio before it goes into PowerDirector, mostly because I've used it for many years and I'm used to it. And I have very specific things that I do with audio. I don't need the power of Audio Director to do that, but it is there. It all comes with it. One other thing I want to mention is the user manual. This is over an inch thick. I printed it out. I printed it out in color because otherwise you would miss all of the little things that they're trying to point out. They've got lots of screenshots. This is written in, this is a Taiwanese company, remember. This is written in impeccable English. They've hired an English-speaking person who speaks English as their primary language, British English, and they wrote this manual, and it is outstanding. Another thing that you will find on the CyberLink website are dozens of tutorial videos on how to do just about everything. Now, I will mention one area where I wish they had more in the manual. The manual, or the software, comes with extra software from Boris FX, ProDad, and New Blue. They're plugins from those companies that the documentation for them kind of goes with it on CyberLink. You've got to go into the effect, and there's a help file there that'll help you with that. There is one of those New Blue files that CyberLink no longer includes that I actually went back and bought from New Blue, so I could get the green screen add-in, which I really liked so much. So, do I recommend this product? Oh, you bet I do. I've been using it for 10 years. It's outstanding. And there are just so many things you can do with video. Like, for example, if your video is low in contrast, just a couple things you can do to get that all fixed. I've noticed other channels who incorporate drone video, which is rather dark, and just to see if I could do it, I recorded that from the screen, ran it through CyberLink PowerDirector, and wow, that video really popped when you do the right things to it. It wasn't dark and dreary, it was beautiful and alive. So there's a lot of capability in this thing. Yes, I do recommend it. I would request that you all subscribe to this channel, please. It's the primary measure YouTube uses to determine whether people are interested in the channel and whether or not to recommend the videos. Also, you can go to dcastler.com/support. There's an entire page there of ways that you can use to support. For example, one of them is a recurring payment using PayPal instead of Patreon. Now, Patreon's there too, but this other one is there for people who either don't like the hassle of Patreon or just want to use something very simple, so I just point that out. So it is down to it. This video is coming out the day before Christmas in the United States. It'll actually be, I guess, on Christmas Day in parts of the world. So I wish to everybody a very Merry Christmas, a very happy holiday season, whatever your primary holiday that you celebrate, whether it's Hanukkah, Christmas, or one of many others. This is the holiday season. And to everybody, a Happy New Year. And until we next meet, 73.